Hello, and welcome back to Feel Good Alcohol Free. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Lindsay, your host, alcohol free coach, and the woman who's going to help you quit drinking and step into the version of yourself you want to become. And you know what? Here's the good news. She's already inside you. I know this because I've been where you are. I spent years trying to convince myself that alcohol wasn't a big deal, that I could stop if I really wanted to. But deep down, I knew as long as I kept drinking, that I wasn't fully living as the woman that I wanted to be. And the moments that should have felt like everything I ever wanted, those were the ones that made it the clearest. I'm going to get into some personal stories today, and my hope is that you'll see your own experiences mirrored in my own, and that it will remind you that change, real change, is possible. I mean, think back to when you were a kid and people would ask, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" What was your answer? Mine was always a lawyer. My parents said that I could talk myself out of anything. Obviously, you know that I'm not a lawyer. I do, however, have excellent negotiating skills. Anyway, let's get back to the point here. When we're young and we're asked this question, we don't hesitate. We spit out whatever comes into our minds. And it is a beautiful feeling. It feels as though the world is like our oyster, as they might say, that we can become anything that we want, like an astronaut or a brain surgeon. And we believe that to be true, whether or not we actually have any of the necessary skills to become a firefighter or the president or a ballerina. But somewhere along the line, as we grow up, we start developing limiting beliefs. And these limiting beliefs keep us stuck. They make us not even try things because we already think we can't accomplish them, or that we will fail. It's why doing the work to quiet our limiting beliefs is so important. Now, before we go any further, I want you to imagine reframing the question you were asked as a kid. What do you want to be when you grow up? To, who do you want to become? This shift is intentional because when you focus on the who rather than the what, you start creating a deeper connection with your true self. The what's, your goals, your path, even your career, tend to fall in place naturally as a result of becoming the person you're meant to be. So here are some examples of why the reframe from what to who is so important. Who you want to become. A confident, resilient woman. What that leads to. Choosing to set clear boundaries, saying no when needed, and making decisions that align with your values. This might lead to a promotion at work, a healthy relationship, or finding the courage to quit drinking. Who you want to become. A woman who trusts yourself. What that leads to. Taking action despite fear. Following your intuition and seeking out new opportunities. This could result in starting a new business, healing from past hurts, or creating a solid self-care routine. Who you want to become. A woman who shows up fully. What that leads to. Engaging in life with authenticity, making meaningful connections, and taking bold steps. This might lead to stronger friendships, deeper relationships, or even public speaking engagements because you've chosen to show up and be visible. Here's another one. Who you want to become. A woman who embraces change. Now, what that leads to is being open to new experiences, even when they push you out of your comfort zone. This could lead to traveling, changing careers, or embracing a new lifestyle without alcohol because you've chosen to grow, adapt, and evolve. You see where I'm going with this? These four examples are common themes that come up in my coaching. When women are looking to make a change in their life and come to me for support, they aren't saying, Lindsay, I want to be insert job title here. They're saying, Lindsay, how do I become someone who embraces change? Or how do I show up fully for my loved ones? If you already know who you want to become, that's incredible, first of all. But if you aren't there yet, we are going to dive into how you can start to figure out who you want to become. First, I'm going to share a story. It's one of the moments I mentioned earlier where on paper, I had everything I ever wanted, but I ruined it by drinking too much. It's also an example of a moment where I was left asking myself, why do I do this? So I'll never forget my honeymoon with my husband, obviously, in Italy, an incredible once-in-a-lifetime trip. It was a private guided tour, a dream come true, but instead of soaking in the beauty, the history, the food, I found myself obsessing over the next wine stop. I couldn't even enjoy the moment until alcohol was involved. To be honest, I cared more about that next glass of wine than the incredible experience I was actually living. So one night I was at the bar with one of my brand new friends that I met, Gigi and Doug, when a casual drink turned into dinner on the beach in Positano. Hours later, after who knows how much wine, I stumbled back to our room, passed out with only 4 hours of sleep before the alarm for our early morning tour to Capri. I even tried to invite Gigi and Doug along, but they politely declined. Fast forward to the morning, and I could barely move. Did I mention it was also my husband's 39th birthday? I showered, threw on a t-shirt dress and sunglasses, and somehow managed to make it to the boat. Of course, there was champagne, and I dove right in. Not even 5 minutes from shore, I was throwing up into the ocean. Things were going downhill fast, and my husband was not exactly happy with me. Far from thrilled, we'll just say. When we arrived in Capri, our guide had a beautiful lunch set up, but all I could feel was guilt. The restaurant staff came out and sang happy birthday to my husband. They had sparklers, they were dancing, and I should have been relishing in this. I should have been soaking it all in. But instead, I felt horrible for ruining his birthday. And hello, Capri, when would I ever get the chance to go back there? That day was a reminder of how alcohol had a way of stealing moments that should have been treasured forever. So this should have been a wake-up call, but it was just one of many similar scenarios that happened when I was drinking. I knew I had to change. Maybe you felt this too, that pull, that distraction, that little voice whispering that something isn't right. But still, you tell yourself, it's fine. I could stop if I wanted to. I used to say that to myself all the time, but it wasn't fine. I was lying to myself. I wanted alcohol to not be a big deal, but the truth was that it was a very big deal. I thought about it all the time. Weekends, if I didn't have plans, I would totally spiral. I'd sit at home, wasting the day, drinking wine instead of doing something, anything fulfilling. And I hated myself for it. It was like watching my own life happen from the outside, feeling stuck like a shell of who I was meant to be. I wasn't being the woman I wanted to be. I was just going through the motions. But then there would be these glimpses of who I could be. I remember when I landed a new job, I had an intense interview process, one I had to really push myself through. I crushed it. And in that moment, I realized I could be whoever I wanted. I could create something different. I just had to believe it. So maybe you've had that quiet moment too, where you realize the version of you who is deeply happy, who moves through life with ease, who wakes up feeling proud. She doesn't drink. And yet right now, letting go of alcohol still feels really hard. It's not just about the habit of drinking. It's about your identity. So today, we're going to shift the way you see this. So we're going to talk about how identity shapes behavior. Now, Here's the thing. The choices you make stem directly from the identity you hold. If you believe deep down that you're someone who needs alcohol to unwind, to socialize, to relax, you'll continue to drink because your brain is wired to align your actions with your beliefs. And this isn't just some like self-help fluff, it's neuroscience. Your brain operates like a high-powered computer, constantly scanning the world and your internal thoughts to reinforce what you believe to be true about yourself. Studies show that our brains are constantly seeking out ways to confirm our beliefs and perceptions about ourselves. This is known as confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new information in a way that supports existing beliefs. So if you identify as somebody who needs alcohol to enjoy social settings or relax, your brain is going to reinforce that behavior by constantly seeking out situations where alcohol is present, or even convincing you that you can't enjoy things without it. So, for example, when I was on my honeymoon in Italy, I had convinced myself that I wouldn't be able to enjoy the boat ride to Capri without champagne. And of course, I needed it to feel more human again because I was so hungover. It felt like a given. But what if you started believing something different about yourself? What if you saw yourself as someone who doesn't need alcohol to unwind or fit in? What if you embraced the identity of someone who is confident, whole, and free without it? Here's where things get a little bit interesting. Research on neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Shows that when you start shifting your identity, your brain can actually create new pathways that support this new version of you. In other words, when you begin to see yourself as alcohol-free, your brain can gradually rewire itself to match this new identity. And this is why I say, if you cannot imagine your life alcohol-free, you will never have a life alcohol-free. So the more you practice that new self-image, the stronger these neural connections become. So let me repeat that. The more you practice, yes, the stronger the neural connections become. So the fastest way to become future you is to live as if you are already her. I love this so much. And it's a practice that completely shifted my whole existence and helps the women that I work with do the same. So imagine this. What if you started showing up as the person who doesn't need alcohol right now? Even if you're still in the early stages of your journey, the brain doesn't wait for everything to be perfect. The more you take actions that align with your new identity, whether that's going to a party without drinking or enjoying dinner without feeling like alcohol is essential, the more your behavior starts to follow your new self-image. And this isn't just mindset. This is science at work. Your brain is wired to make your actions match your identity. If you shift your identity to someone who is vibrant, free, and confident without alcohol, your brain will start aligning your actions to that truth. It's not about forcing yourself to act differently. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need alcohol and letting your actions follow suit. I already had most of this version of myself I wanted, but I spent so long believing alcohol was a part of me. It was how I celebrated, how I connected, how I relaxed. And the idea of removing it felt like I'd be losing something. But when I finally started asking different questions, who do I want to be? What does she do? That is when things started to change for me, because I'm realizing during this time, I wasn't becoming someone new. I was just stepping into the version of myself that I had like stuffed and buried under all the alcohol. So now we're going to dive into some practical steps of how you are going to reach future you. Let's do this together. I want you to take a deep breath and really sit with these questions. And don't worry, they are outlined in the show notes, so no need to go grab a pen and paper unless, of course, you want to. Okay, the first question is, if alcohol was no longer in my life, who would I be? Next, what would I feel like in my body? What kind of energy would I have? How would I move through my day? What would I prioritize? How would I show up in the world, at work, with my friends, at family gatherings? These questions might feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but that's because they are pushing you to see the version of yourself that you've yet to fully step into, the who you want to become. And that's powerful because when you start to see it, it becomes easier to live that way. It's not about getting everything right overnight. It's about small intentional shifts. So I want you to think about one way you can show up as that future version of you today. Maybe it's choosing a non-alcoholic drink at dinner, even if that feels like a stretch at first. Maybe it's waking up early and going for a walk instead of nursing a hangover, enjoying the feeling of a fresh start. Maybe it's simply reminding yourself, I am already becoming her. Because the truth is, every single small action counts. And yes, those actions matter now, not just in the distant future. Every time you make a choice that aligns with the future version of yourself, you are strengthening that identity. The more you practice it, the more natural it will start to feel. So here's how this showed up for me in the early months of my sobriety. Once I had a bit of clarity and I could kind of feel my drive coming back, I felt eager to set some fresh goals for myself. I signed up for a yoga teacher enhancement program. I'd already had my 200-hour teaching certification, but I started to feel like I could actually start teaching, like, real classes. So I went for this additional training to kind of get the rust out, and I noticed something incredibly different about myself. I was actually becoming friends and connecting with the other students that were taking this course I was in. I had dreamt of being a yoga teacher, being more, I guess, less uptight is one way I used to describe myself. And when I put myself in the room with these other students, I no longer felt like a fraud. So if you've been following me for a while, you may have heard or seen one of my stories about how when I did my yoga teacher training, my initial certification, I would be so stressed out on those training weekends that I wouldn't be able to have my normal downtime and have my wine and relax on the weekends because I was going to be so busy. And I recognized in this second training, I was newly sober, that I was really becoming her. I was the woman I wanted to become. I was deeply involved in my yoga community, and I was also killing it at work. I kind of had it all. I was corporate and I was go with the flow yoga Zen girl. I was present and content in every moment. So let's also be real. There are going to be days when it's harder to step into this version of yourself, and that's okay. This isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress. If today doesn't go as planned, it's a moment to learn from. Ask yourself, what can I do differently tomorrow? So we're going to get into some tips to help sort of guide you on this path. The first is finding micro moments of freedom. Even if you're in a social setting with alcohol, look for those little windows of opportunity where you can make a decision that reflects your future self. Whether that's taking a moment to check in with your body or simply savoring a mocktail with the same enjoyment you'd have with a glass of wine. You're asking yourself, what would future me be doing right now? What would she be drinking in this moment? Then visualize your ideal day without alcohol. Spend a few minutes each morning. Imagine what your day would look like if you were already living alcohol-free. Picture yourself fully engaged, clear-headed, and proud of the choices that you're making. This creates a mental blueprint that your brain can start to work towards. Next up, celebrate your small wins. Every time you choose something that aligns with who you're becoming, give yourself credit. Maybe it's a small compliment to yourself in the mirror or a moment of gratitude for making it through a tough social situation without drinking. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. Just take one small step. And remember, the more you practice stepping into that future version of yourself, the more natural it will feel. This is a journey of becoming. And you're already on the path. Like, whether you even realize that or not, you are already on the path. So here's what I want you to remember. You're not trying to become someone new. You're not. You're not striving to be someone you aren't. What you're doing is removing the one thing that's been holding you back from fully stepping into the person you have always been. The future version of you, she's not waiting somewhere down the road. She's already inside you, ready to be lived right now. You don't need to go searching for her. You just need to allow yourself to become her, moment by moment, action by action. She's been there all along, but the layers of alcohol and self-doubt have clouded her for too long. Now it's time to just clear that away. And when you focus on that version of yourself, the woman who's confident, whole, free, and fully herself, alcohol starts to make less and less sense in your life. It becomes something you no longer need because you've discovered the depth of who you truly are without it. But so here's the thing. This process isn't always easy, and it certainly doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong practice, and without the right support and accountability, it's easy to slip back into old habits and patterns or put off the work until tomorrow. That's where the community and structure of my group coaching program comes in. This isn't something you do alone. It's about creating a space where we show up for each other, where we push through the discomfort together, and where we hold each other accountable to the version of ourselves that we're stepping into. This is about building a new identity, a new way of being, one where alcohol no longer has a place in your life. And that takes time. It's a journey. It's a process of reprogramming old beliefs, shedding old habits, and stepping into your full potential. But with support, with community, and with the right tools, this practice becomes something you can rely on. It's not just something you do on your own. It's something we do together, and we support each other through every single step. I've seen it time and time again. Women who thought they couldn't possibly change, who thought they were stuck in their relationship with alcohol, they start to make those small shifts. And over time, those shifts lead to massive transformations. This is what we do inside Feel Good AF. This is my life's work, helping you step into the future version of yourself and make it real today. So if you're ready to stop waiting and start living as the woman that you are meant to be, know that you're not doing this alone. You have a community of women who believe in you, who see your potential, and who are walking this path with you. Because you're already her. You've just been waiting for the right moment to step into it fully. That moment is now. Okay. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to start stepping into the version of yourself who is already free, I want you to do two things. The first thing is download my free guide on my website to help you take the next step. I walk you through tactical tips and a visioning exercise so that you can actually see the version of yourself that you want to become. The link is in the show notes, so you can just grab it there. And you don't have to do this alone. And I promise the future you is worth it. And second, please hit follow or subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. I would be so grateful, and it will help other women who need support find it. That's it for me for this week. I will see you next week. You won't want to miss it.